The world is saved. The living room's dark, save for light being cast from the big TV screen and the imminent sunrise that's teasing the one starry sky with whispers of morning.
Hey, George.
Hey, Lions, how's it going? I'm sorry, you just came out of nowhere, man. I'm a little startled.
They use that sound effect so many times that eventually I was like, this is kind of corny, but they're doing the best they could with what they had, right? But it's just like they're all-purpose surprise noise.
No, man. The one noise I hear in my ears a lot is the "you died" noise.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. Frighteningly, that's probably like a close second to the "you killed someone" noise. Is the "you getting killed" noise?
Well, I think though that all of the because at one point when you're going through the game, there are zombie like warriors and like and mummies and stuff, and I'm like, come on, wait. Oh my God, it's my reanimated body. Like it's me. Like those are all the different versions of me that have died and are now coming back to fight me. It's obvious.
Yeah. I mean, you do end up fighting a friggin' demon at the end. Like that actually isn't even an outlandish presumption. We should probably bring the audience in on what we're talking about.
Right. We played Super Mario Brothers.
Yes. Those pits are just full of Mario corpses.
We played Ninja Gaiden. Which one are we going to do? We gotta pick that out now.
God damn it. So I say Gaiden. It's almost definitely Gaiden.
No, it's probably Gaiden because I don't think that the Japanese has a hard A like that, does it?
Oh God. Now my brain is just leaking. If I didn't have these headphones on, there'd just be puddles running down my shoulders.
Picturing like Homer Simpson when he eats the blob goo and it's just like all pouring. I can keep down Arby's. I can keep down you.
Ninja Gaiden. Yeah.
Ninja Gaiden.
Crap. I think it actually is Gaiden, but
we have already gone so far afield and you have sworn twice. So the episode's going great.
Yeah. No. Okay. So here you pick and I'll try to just stick to that one.
I'm gonna go with Ninja Gaiden.
Gaiden. We played Ninja Gaiden. So
yes. Yeah, we played Ninja Gaiden.
So. This game, I don't know if this is important to our playthrough of the game, but you know that this is an arcade port, right?
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah, of course you didn't. And here's why. So the arcade game that had the same name of Ninja Gaiden, it's a side-scrolling beat-em-up like a Golden Axe or a Final Fight. And then for whatever reason, they were like, oh, we're going to port this game to the NES. But, not this game. Like a totally different game with a different story and a different mechanical model and different everything.
Is it even like a port at that point? Or is it just a branding? Like I'd
say in 1989 when this game came out that they probably considered it a port because it was like they slapped the Die Hard branding on it.
Yeah.
And maybe it was the same company, so the company considered it a port. But I mean, it has nothing in common. Not even like reused visual assets. Nothing. It is a completely independent game. And considering the direction the franchise took after this game, I would say it's a good thing they ported it because none of the future of the series was anything like the arcade game.
Right. Well, I mean, it makes more sense for, a ninja game to be more about like running, jumping, climbing than, literally walking the streets, beating the mess out of people. I mean, it's I feel that at some point ninjas being known for speed and stealth, no, it wouldn't work out.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're just like a purse snatcher who's wearing a face mask, you're not really a ninja. you're just a thug wearing a face mask.
Yeah, the Joker in The Dark Knight was not a ninja,
No, indeed. Yeah. What is your nostalgia experience for this game like? Because I'm curious.
None directly, but no, I never played this game. Nothing to this game. But That being said, though, is that I am glad that we played it because, I mean, you can't exist in the world of video games without hearing people go on about this game. So this is definitely one where it's kind of like Dark Souls, but older in the sense of like, everybody talks about it and talks about being super good and super unforgiving and super all these things. And it's just me practicing and honing my particular ninja skill, which is pretending that I know something about a franchise that I know absolutely nothing about. So they're like, "Oh man, you love Ninja Gaiden?" I'm like, "Oh, Ninja Gaiden, that's an awesome game." It's like, oh, I know, right? I mean, it's so hard oh man, it's so hard and so unforgiving too. It's like, oh, so it's yeah. So that's my experience. Yours?
So if I didn't own this game, maybe one of my brother's friends owned it and it was just at my house all the time. But I remember playing this when it was current and then a little while after, like a little while into the 16-bit era. I remember continuing to play this and then never touching it again, right? Because there was a time where I didn't really look back because it was all I could do to keep up with modern games. And then flash forward to when the new Ninja Gaiden, the 3D Ninja Gaiden, came out on the Xbox 360, I think.
Maybe.
Anyway, we had a roommate who would not shut the hell up about that game. And to be fair, that game was incredibly well reviewed and everybody loved it. And I'm sure it was wonderful. But like, I basically have these two buckets of Ninja Gaiden memories, which are, bros in college talking about how good the Xbox One was. And then me as a kid dying a lot to the Nintendo one. And there's so much space between those two things that it's like, yeah, they're called the same thing, but are they really the same thing? And I get it, right? But it's just like, it's weird that in my mind, I picture both a very tiny 8-bit sprite and also this like super HD, like mega buff, 3D like landscape. It's odd, but that I've got this disjointed duality. What it is? It's the Tao of Ninja Gaiden.
There you go.
Yeah.
Which is thematically appropriate.
It is very thematically appropriate. But also, I will echo your. It's like just the culture of it seeps into you, right? Just people talking about how hard it is and talking about how it's the hardest game and how it's so unfair and it's broken, and then other people are like, no, you just got to get good, right? And it's like the NES Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like a lot of NES games, right? It's just like, no, it wasn't hard, you just suck, right? It's one of those cultural nuggets. And it's also a game that a lot of people point to as like how games have changed over the years. They're so much more accessible. They're not like Ninja Gaiden,
which is interesting because and since this will probably come up throughout the episode, just by sheer random happenstance, this particular game completely kind of slots into the way I play platformers, which is just going as hard as you can, as fast as you can, and to hell with the consequences, right? So this was like a very weird experience because just my default play style is very much so, and we'll get into it throughout the episode, very much so like right on point with this. So but that being said, dude, the game's super easy. You just got to be good at it. This is not a hard game, and if the rest of the franchise is this like negligibly difficult, I guess if you were wearing a blindfold and having your younger brother play it for you and you were trying to talk them through it might be difficult, but the game is not hard. It's an easy game.
Because as Hollow Knight told us to do, you got good.
I did. I got good like 30 plus years ago, and then I just stayed good.
I started out good, and I've maintained goodness.
I've continued to perform at or near good expectations.
I do have some interesting shilling news. Because I don't always have shilling news, but I have two interesting bits of shilling news. So
sometimes we have farthing news, but this is shilling news.
Yeah, but this is shilling news. Jesus Christ. As always, we like to take this time to thank new patrons, new Twitter followers, new listeners to the show, right? People who come and hang out on Twitch. And this brings me to my first bit of shilling news. I streamed my entire playthrough of this game, minus like a tiny little bit. I booted it up just to like check some sound effects and like do some sanity checks on some of the music and stuff. But all of my playthrough of this was streamed live on Twitch, and I might as well have streamed it on Snapchat because I had to make it ephemeral because the sheer volume of cursing was so extreme that I was just like, I don't need a permanent record of this. Like, this is
good.
It's not, I mean, I didn't say anything that I'm like ashamed of. It was just a lot of F-bombs, just a lot of F-bombs, right? It's not like I said anything heinous, but just like, I don't think I need 3 hours of me saying the F word almost nonstop for like 180 straight minutes. So if you caught those streams, like you are now in a small special group of people who saw me deal with that. And no one else will get to. Minus there is one clip that I pulled out that somehow did not have any F-bombs in it. And it was weirdly delightful for the amount of teeth grinding that I did in this game. There's this one really, really happy moment. So there will be a clip of that. I will actually put the link in the show notes so you don't have to go hunt it down. But there will be a Twitch clip in the show notes. The other bit of shilling news, which is far more exciting, is that we actually get to welcome a new 16-bit hero. So we like to thank our 8-bit classics and our 16-bit heroes on every episode. So we want to thank our 8-bit classic Michael S. and our two 16-bit heroes, Jacob K. and David S., which is definitely not just me wearing a fake mustache.
Well, are the 8-bit S and the 16-bit S, are they related?
They're not. I actually do know the last names of these people, but they could be related and have different last names. They don't have the same last name.
Oh, well, they do in my head. So
yes. None of these people are just me wearing a mustache.
Some of them are me wearing a mustache. So visuals?
Visuals. I really like the visuals in this game.
I know, right? Good. They're really good. And actually made me wonder, and you didn't say, when did this game come out?
It hit America in March of 1989.
So that's the thing that just blows my mind about the visuals on this game is I thought for sure, given some of the visuals, that it had to be later in the Nintendo's life cycle, you know, because I was like, there's no way this was earlier on, right? I mean, the game is, I mean, from my, not to gush you, it's gorgeous, man. I mean, it's literally, and I'll make this comparison many times, it is on par with, in my mind, Castlevania, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I would say in some ways it looks better than Castlevania.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do the sprites look good and the environments when you are playing the game, but this game has friggin' cutscenes. Like in between every act, there is, and actually a couple times during the act, but in between every act, there's like not fully animated. They're almost like comic book style. Like if you've ever played a modern like visual novel where it's like it's a comic book, but it kind of moves a little bit, or there'll be like simple animations, and they do that, and they're full color, and they do tight zooms and stuff, so you get a lot more detail like on facial expressions and things, and it looks great. Like I was kind of like, holy crap, this is a Nintendo game. This looks really good.
Yeah, in particular, I believe it's the beginning of Act 3. The thing that blew my mind was the trees in the background. Like they just the way that they maximized for the what they had to work with, like as far as pixels go, you know, I mean, it looks just like a tree. I don't know the particular type of tree, but like kind of a fir tree, effectively. You know, but I'm like, it just looks gorgeous, and they did a great job using like contrasting colors, you know. So a lot of times the backgrounds are kind of, you know, most of the time you're against like dirt, you know, like some kind of a mountain, cave, things like that. So you are bright blue, you know, and you're bright blue because you're a lot of times against orange or red, you know, which you know make them pop, you know. So it's really good, and all of the different enemies are so wildly different. I didn't always know what they were. Like there's the old lady who throws crosses at you, and like that's fine. It's an old lady throwing crosses at you, but there's a weird frog face dude that throws
the white. He
Yeah,
looks like Jack Skellington come to stab you to death.
see, that's way more in the moment. To me, he looked like a weirdly bleached Mayor McCheese.
Yes, terrifyingly, that is also accurate.
So anytime when you can say like it looks like a horrifying Jack Skellington or a giant Mayor McCheese, it's like, oh god. But that's the thing, I have no idea what that was supposed to be. But I could definitely tell you it was an enemy, and I could tell you immediately what its patterns are, how it attacks, because it's important, because you do need to be making these split-second decisions. Anything that looks like anything else behaves like the other thing. So there's like 4 or 5 different things that run quickly across the ground and will clip you. Sometimes it's a jaguar, sometimes it's a puma, sometimes it's a blue thing, whatever that thing was.
That looked to me like that one guy from Soul Calibur who like walks.
Baldo?
Yeah. Who like walks on all fours, but like backwards, like in a bridge.
I have played Soul Calibur maybe 5 times in my life. I have no idea why I know that. Like I spouted it off like so confidently, but
we're not going to go down the roommates but 2 of our friends that you lived with in college played a lot of Soul Calibur.
They did, and that's literally the 5 times I've played it was with that particular roommate. That's the same roommate that ruined Smash Brothers for me. So for the same reason, I don't actually, now I'm starting to think this was a little bit on me.
There may have been a pattern.
But all that being said, like all of the enemies that look the same, they move and they behave the same, So even though there's like, I don't know, 15 different types of eagles, and I did not like the eagles, did not care for them, 0 stars on Yelp, would not recommend. They all behaved the same way because they all looked about the same way. So
and the palette swapping is used only where that's kind of acceptable. Like when you're in the snowy mountain area, you have snowy mountain birds. And when you're on like the warmer, lower mountain area, you have like different birds. And when you're like first starting to go up the mountain, you have different, right? Like they never use palette swapping as a way to be tricksy. And I don't think they even use any palette swapping as a way to be like, oh, the blue man is stronger than the red man, but the purple man is stronger than the blue man, right? Because that's one of the most common uses of palette swapping, but I don't think that they do that. I think every character, every enemy sprite has a fairly unique design, and that's 100% consistent. So you always know, that's the old lady who throws crosses. This is the army man who will just run to his death for some insane reason. This is whatever, that's whatever, right? So
this is the ninja who run to their death for whatever strange reason. This is
also true. But you always know basically exactly what you're seeing, which, as we'll get to, is like super important.
Yes.
It also makes the world feel a little bit more believable because the environments are exceptionally varied. And you get a lot of visual variation. You see, I think by the end of the second act, you see like 90% of the enemies. And then by the end of the third or fourth act, you see like the remaining, 10 to 15% you haven't already seen. And that makes sense because it's like an army that's trying to murder you. Like these are people who are out looking for you to murder you. So you keep seeing the same foot soldiers because of course you do. You keep seeing the same whatever because of course you do. But eventually, like, you don't see the street thugs anymore because you're not like in the city. You're like up in the temple on the mountain.
Well, and also too, I think that the palette swapping is kind of done very rarely. It's done in kind of ways that make sense because, like you said, the brown hawk is when you're down where there would be a brown hawk. The snow eagle is up where there would be a snow eagle. Army dudes look like army dudes because they're army dudes. And they could have even said like, oh, well, these are white camoed army dudes as opposed to the green camoed army dudes. But the idea is that they didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare. You're just kind of like hitting them fast and hard like a ninja. What? So, it's, and again, it's visuals and surface of gameplay, literally the way this game is intended, nay, must be played, is such that you need to be able to make that recognize each enemy and its movement patterns on a split second. Generally, sometimes we mention this in mechanics, sometimes we mention it in visuals, but the hitbox on this, personally, I found the hitbox for you to be where it felt about right, which probably means it was in my favor. The sword is super in your favor, man. Like, the sword literally, if you are like 2 pixels away from the sword hitting the thing, it'll still register the hit, which again is super important. And because this game is meant to be played quickly, is that I think that they kind of did it on where does the sword feel like it is, as though like you feel like you're probably about a step and a half further forward than you actually are. But there was no time. There were definitely times when I got nailed because I was like, no, I totally hit the button. But really the amount of time it took the electricity to go from my cerebrum to my cerebellum to, make the electricity in my muscles cord, and then all of a sudden hit the button. And then by then I've been hit 15 times by 15 different enemies. But that being said, is that there was no time when, I swung the sword out and it was like, oh no, you swung too early, dude. And it just nailed me anyway. So I felt that the hitbox on the sword was exceptionally generous, but again, it felt fair.
So I agree with the sentiment of what you're saying. The one asterisk I will put onto that is the animation sometimes doesn't look like it's connecting, but you don't care because it's in your favor, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's also worth noting that other than the bosses, I'm pretty sure that every single enemy is one hit kill.
That is accurate.
Right? So yes. Not only does this little bit of generosity feel awesome, it also like that means that enemy's dead now because you connected once, and once is all it takes.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the one other thing that feels where I wish they had gone for a tiny bit more generosity is a lot of enemies right near the edge of a ledge. And so you're jumping and it's like, okay, I need to actually strike them as I'm falling because I won't be able to land and then swing the sword. And I felt like that timing was not as generous as I would have liked, because more than once I started the swing animation and then started the landing animation, which aborted the swinging animation, and then I got. And I understand that that's like a really narrow window, but I wish they had either like you held the sword out longer while you were jumping so you could like jump and stab or something, but you do the exact same like whiff, like little quick sword motion. And so if you don't time that right, you can screw yourself. Now, I'll be fair, most of the time it worked fine. But when it didn't work, I was really disoriented because now I'm standing on the ledge, like staring down this enemy that I meant to kill while I was in midair. And then they punched me in the face and I fell to my death.
Yeah. The way I found to combat that was being good at the game,
See, I didn't do that. I didn't.
Exactly. I mean, and that's fair. Like I get that, but yeah, no, just get good. So no, I did not have, that experience very regularly. I think that the way I interacted with those enemies, I can't think of a time when, except for one area in stage 5 where I got bottlenecked really hard. I can't think of too many times when the enemy was such that I really had to hit them on my way down, where I couldn't either wait for a half-second pause for them to move back, or one of the cool things that I found, and again, this game does have some glitches to it, but that if you let them walk off screen and then kind of walk forward a little bit, like you can continue to just kind of slowly generate screen where they don't exist because they're not there. Yeah. And then sometimes you can glitch that into them disappearing.
And it's awesome.
Sometimes you can just kind of glitch them into non-existence, which is, in my mind, the way that I dealt with that was that it was a ninja mind trick, like it's ninja magic. So for me, it was still part of the game. It's like, no, you never existed at all. But I could only do it very infrequently because, it's powerful magic, Yeah,
and there's certain enemies that their movement pattern will naturally take them off the screen. And so if you like the birds are a good example, right? They make these big swooping motions, kind of, like a bird. And so if you wait till they're already headed to the left side of the screen and you run right, you can despawn them like super easy. Yeah. And this actually brings me to another thing that I wanted to bring up, which is this is a Nintendo game, right? And I often complain about the Nintendo's inability to have rich music and rich sound effects happening at the same time. But a thing that we haven't run into a ton with the games that we happen to have played is like slow down and like flicker, where there's so much stuff on the screen, the game can't really properly handle it and everything goes to crap, right? Sometimes like some of the old Mega Mans that would happen, right? Or like in Castlevania, you could stupidly let too many enemies spawn onto the screen, and now it kind of slows down and it kind of flickers a little.
Medusa heads being the one that I remember the
yes,
most.
right. If you don't kill them, eventually they can build up. I was a little frustrated at times with how this game did not have that problem. And a shocking amount of stuff could be on screen at once. Many enemies, many projectiles, many angry birds. And there's no friendly fire, so they don't mind overlapping each other, right? So, like, there were a couple of times where I was just like, I'm really annoyed that this is happening, but I'm very impressed with how much crap is happening on the screen right now.
Yeah, no, definitely the game, and we'll continue to get into this, but it very much so incentivizes you to behave in a way that would be very ninja-like. And one thing that is not ninja-like is letting too many enemies gang up on you at once. So it is kind of in keeping that it's like, no, man, you deal with this problem. You have got two hawks, a bat, a guy with a machine gun, and a guy with a bazooka who are all aware of that you're a problem. So work that out. Yeah, the other thing that I'll say too about the visuals is the power-ups, the things that okay, so one is the visual difference but between like what the candles, they're Castlevania candles, right?
Yes, which is the best when you're climbing the mountain and the candles are bald eagles, and so you just become this like anti-environmentalist.
Yeah,
they're like
they're
a
bald
villain
eagles
from friggin' Captain Planet climbing that mountain.
They're bald eagles. At one point, they're bugs. You know?
Yeah. Like, they're like giant dragonflies from like a Garbage Pails Kids card.
Well, there's the dragonfly ones, but then there's another one that they look like spiders almost, you know, or beetles.
Yeah.
You know. So, anyways, but first of all, one of my notes was, yeah, I didn't care for that. I felt like that whatever those things were, they could have just, because it doesn't make any sense, right? You know. So I figured you could have, because sometimes they are candles or light generating sources, and that makes sense, right? You know, like it wasn't broken in Castlevania. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But they could have just had one thing for the outdoors to be like, it could have been the bald eagles or whatever it was. And it's just make that everywhere. I didn't think that we needed a varied visual in that one because, again, I just didn't feel it was necessary. However, the things that they dropped were super confusing. I didn't know what things were giving me points towards using my special. I didn't know what things were special. I didn't know which things gave me temporary abilities, which one gave me more permanent, like special items. All of it was just bananas.
See, while you were getting good, I read the manual. And, right? Because
I never hit any type of skill wall that necessitated me reading the manual.
I don't have to look anything up. I'm fine.
Yeah, I just picked it up and was playing. So, you know, and being so good at it that
I didn't need to. NES era games, renowned for, we'll just tell them what the rules of the game are, right? Which I do think this game has one thing working in its favor, which is the weapons are fairly obvious because they change your little special, right? So if you pick up a thing that looks like anything and it changes what's in that little special box, then it's like, oh, I got a sub-weapon. Everything else is not immediately obvious, right? So it's like, is this ammo for the sub-weapon? Is this just points? There's one kind of drop that's health. There's one kind of drop that there's only a couple of in the entire game, which is an hourglass, and it freezes all the enemies on screen for a couple of seconds, right? That one's because the effect is so obvious, like that one you kind of figure out. There's also like their version of the Super Mario Superstar that you also only get a couple of times where you have like a little fire shield. You can work it out because the things that are obvious are super obvious, and the things that are incredibly confusing are like you can still just, run, jump, climb trees and move on with your ninja life. But this is firmly in the era of like, well, we wrote it down so I wouldn't have to remember.
Right. And that's the thing is that, it definitely was not game breaking by any means, because, I would just knock out the candle. And then, like you said, is that either I noted, oh, I now have a special ability, which is fine, or just a thing would happen. I will say, though, the one or two times I interacted with the freeze time thing, I picked it up so quickly, I didn't see that I picked up a thing. And so then just suddenly time froze, and it caused me to pause for a second to be like, what is that? Oh, I must have picked something up the first time. That's fine. And the first time I got the invincibility, I also didn't see myself pick it up, but it was super clutch because I think the way they intended it to, which is I jumped up, hit the thing as I was about to land on a bad guy, became invincible, and murder housed him. So it was a weird emotion because I saw the bad guy as I had already committed to the jump. I was like, oh no, I'm going to die. Wait, what's this thing around me? He's dead. And I was like, cool. I guess moving on. And that was the thing, is that the game really makes you kind of just, what about the universe where Hitler cured cancer? The answer is don't think about it, Morty. He's got to keep going, So that being said, it definitely did not harsh my experience in any way because, again, you got to roll with it. You just picked up a thing, and as you're just sprinting as fast as you can down the hill, somebody hands you a cudgel, and you're like, oh, cool, I can use this to murder things. Or, oh no, this cudgel, when I hit the first thing, it popped into confetti and gave me gummy bears to eat to fuel my run. Or whatever. You roll with the punches. So it wasn't game breaking or experience ruining, but definitely not intuitive.
I'm now wondering if you have ever been for a run.
Not if I can avoid it.
Well, I mean, clearly you don't know how it works because you eat the gummy bears after the run.
What I was thinking of was
you get an upset tummy.
I was just thinking of The Simpsons. I think it's one of the Halloween episodes where Homer's running away from a bunch of angry dogs, and he goes like, I know, and he pulls out like a bunch of sausage links. It's like, these sausages will give me the fast energy I need to escape, and just eats them all and then takes off sprinting.
Yes, no, that is an obscure Simpsons reference, but yeah, no, weird choice.
Yeah, I think it's
weird
the
strategy,
episode.
Cotton.
Yeah, I think it, and I'm just curious if our fans will say if I'm right or wrong, but I believe it's the Halloween episode where Homer is traveling to multiple different realities and he is trying to escape the lobotomy from Ned Flanders.
Yes, where Ned is the all powerful ruler of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think you might be right, dude.
But, only our fans can tell us.
Yeah,
for sure.
We can only be told via the contact form on the website or Twitter.
Exactly.
Or
Apple Podcast reviews.
Yes, or you can go outside of your house and get Ned Flanders to chase you down the street with dogs. I do want to mention one thing that is, it's going to sound nitpicky, but it's just it just annoyed me enough times. I was like, nope, it's going in the notes. The cinematic cutscenes, visually, I cannot say enough good things about. They just look great. They're such a fun addition to the game. They break up the time between the acts instead of just putting text on the screen or just not telling you at all, and you just have to infer from the action what's happening. It was fun to have those little cutscenes. I don't speak any Japanese. I don't know if they have a way of discerning who the speaker is from context that we don't have in English, but these cutscenes are artfully shot enough that the speaker is not always the character that is currently in the shot on screen. So there were a few, right. There were a few times where it was just like, who is speaking right now? Who is the person saying those words? And I mean, you can work it out. It's not like, oh God, I'm never going to understand Hamlet. You can piece it together, but it ruins the impact of the cutscene a little bit when you, the player, have to go, wait, did I say that? Did the lady say that? Did the demon say that? Who said that?
It'd be like three people with very similar sounding voices doing a dramatic scene during COVID.
Yeah, just all white text, no name tag, no little face, right? Everybody's got masks on. Everybody has their camera off. It's like, who's talking?
Yeah. I will say though that from my own experience, I didn't really care about the plot. You know, I kind of, and the nice thing about the game is that it doesn't make you care, right? You can literally hit start, skips the whole thing. Love it, love everything about it, because definitely I in my mind did a TLDR, you know, so when, you know, I ran up and, you know, there's a big giant emperor looking dude, and like the camera angles, you know, on an up angle, so like he's in a position of dominance, you know. And I'm like, oh, he must be the bad guy. And you know, then there's a woman with like a knife to her throat. I'm like, okay, hostage situation, got it. And then just like yep, picking it up. Yeah, he's gonna do something awful to me because he's got my girlfriend hostage or something. Okay, cool, let me go kill more people. Yeah, so I didn't need the why behind the killing. I just love killing.
Just love killing people. And I think that's the best way to have story in an action game, is where one, it's skippable, so on subsequent playthroughs you don't have to sit through it if you don't want to, and two, if you say maybe can't read well or the translation is terrible or whatever, like you don't, it's not like I don't know where to go because I didn't watch the cutscene, right? Like you run straight and you murder everything in front of you, right? Like that's the game, no matter what happens in the cutscene, which I do think is like it's the right balance. Like, yeah, because this is not a story game. Right. But the reason I mention it is just because every time I went, wait, what? Like that just took me out of enjoying the cutscene.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't have agreed. I don't have a good. Yeah, because I was trying to think, you know, well, do they do kind of the thing where it's like statement, you know, where they always switch off, but no, they don't. Sometimes they'll have two consecutive statements by the same person, and yeah.
It's not. I mean, it's far from game ruining, but I was just like, because really the thing that I was curious about was not like, oh, why didn't they put, you know, Ryu : and then the words or whatever, but I was just like, oh, huh. Maybe in Japanese, it would always be obvious who is speaking. Or maybe in Japanese, because the characters are so much more information dense, they can put the entirety, instead of it scrolling to subsequent lines, they can put the whole statement in a shorter amount of space. I was just, probably not. You probably also have this problem in Japanese, but I was just like, huh. I only have one other thing for visuals, and it's goofy as hell. You got anything else for visuals?
Nope.
Okay. My one other thing is, I died a lot. I saw that continue screen a lot. The like rainbow flash, because you only get the rainbow flash when you lose all your lives and you continue.
Correct.
I love the way that looks. Every time, part of me was like, crap, I died. But because it's not flashing
abrasively.
It's a rainbow sequence, right? It's not like red, white, orange, white, yellow, white, right? It's not a flicker. It's cycling through the colors like relatively fast, which makes it, I think abrasive is a good term for it, right? It's not abrasive. And it just, I don't know, man. I was just like, damn, this is a Nintendo. And that's like a really pretty kind of effect. Like I'm a little less angry that I died.
Well, so speaking of, game over, right? I really like the music behind the game over, you know? It's not, you know, I'm not great with music, as anybody who has listened to more than one of our episodes knows.
Yeah. If you're a first timer here, this is normal.
Yeah. But that being said, is that it's not, like, hey, you're an idiot. You know, it doesn't have that kind of, you know, feeling of really kind of like dun dun dun, like, you know, like, oh my God, this is terrible. It's like, you know, hey man, you died. That was kind of the end of that story. Just try again, man. You know, like it's not very intense music. I would even say it's less intense than, you know, like Mega Man dying, where it's like that huge, you know.
That's very intense.
Yeah, that's intense, man. And he explodes when it happens, you know, like that you're like, oh my God, you know, this isn't that. This isn't Joel being killed by a bloater, you know. This is just very much so like very toned down, low key, and most importantly, short. You know, is that You die, goes do 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 do. Game over. Start again. So what like 3-4 seconds between death and I now get to play the game some more. That is important.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's even not dramatically, but I'll bet it's even a little bit shorter than like a Super Mario Brothers death. Right?
Yeah.
And then it's not the tremendous difference in the music length. It's in Super Mario Brothers, you then see the black screen with the Mario and the world number, how many lives you have left, and that takes a second or two, and then you're back in control. In this, it's little musical note, and then you're back in control.
Well, and actually, we're 1 degree off, right? Because what you're describing is similar to the You Lost a Life, which is even a little bit shorter in this game. What we're actually talking about is the game over, which is even longer in Mario, because then it goes do 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 do. It's like, no, you totally died, man. But again, I think that the main difference is that in Mario, you're starting the whole game over. So that's more like a, hey man, you want to get off the highway and maybe stay at a rest stop for a little bit, now's the time. You've been driving.
You look
for
like
a while.
You need a break, champ.
Yeah. Whereas this is more like, hey man, you want another snack because this happened recently,
I know, you with your troglodyte ideas, but these tracks are jams.
They're good.
Like the background music is good enough that, like I said, I streamed my whole playthrough, but actually went back to check a couple things, but mainly just as like sit and listen to the music. I found of course there's a billion YouTube videos that are the music pulled from the game, and it's really good. Like it's really good music that I would put right up there with a Mega Man or a Castlevania from this era. Like maybe not as nostalgic to me personally, but in terms of the quality of the, composition, it's good songs. Weirdly, these songs, just the way they wrote them, and I can't say for sure whether or not this is on purpose, but if it was, stroke of genius, the songs are a lot of fast notes. Like it's not a lot of long sustained notes. It's a lot of right kind of stuff.
So it doesn't sound like it's ducking out.
Yes. Because the sword is constantly happening and people are constantly popping and when you pick up items is constantly happening. The music is constantly ducking, but your mind just fills in the gaps because it's like if you've ever been like walking down the street near like a fence and you realize you can see what's on the other side of the fence as long as you're walking because your brain is smart like that. And then you stop and you can't see what's on the other side of the fence because your brain is dumb like that, right? Like it's that for audio. And I think it's amazing that there's a pretty decent chance that these songs were intentionally composed to sound like flip books so that the sound effects don't interrupt the melody in a conscious way. They absolutely are technologically 100%, but your brain is just like, no, it's fine. It's just like, I'll just fill it in. It's fine.
Yeah. It'd be like somebody, sitting there rocking out on the drums. And then occasionally like one of the drum hits is somebody hitting a bongo instead of, like an actual drum where you're like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Close enough.
That's about right. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's one thing that I did notice was that it didn't have that weird ducking. And I remember noticing that because I was like, again, with NES era games, I'm starting to pay attention to it. And with this one, I was like, oh, this is clever because his Lions doesn't have something to complain about this time.
Right, dude, if this was an accident, then what a happy accident. If this was done on purpose, genius. Like utterly genius. To say, what if we wrote music that doesn't suffer if a couple notes are dropped here and there? Like what a masterstroke.
When I think too, though, that, and so one thing that I think we can say is anytime somebody says arcade ports suck, I mean, this is the exception to that rule, right? It's
almost cheating, but yeah.
But that's the thing though, is that this, every time, I say like, look, I get it, man. Running a business, it's rough. You got to make money, right? So when all of a sudden you've got an arcade cabinet that's making tons of money, you can just port it over, nice, easy, quick and clean, helps your bottom line. I get it. This is the antithesis of that, right? Because they could have done that. They could have just, blanket ported, just ripped out every asset they could. But they said, you know what? None of that's going to be a good game. Let's make a really good game. And this game is so thoughtful in that way, so to the point where they even said, and what I imagine happened was that, when you're playing Mario, right, aside from the once in a while where you get into a room where there's a million bajillion coins, right, you're occasionally stomping on a Koopa shell, so the music ducking out, you're like, well, what are you going to do? But I am confident that they may have put some music behind this and said, this is unlistenable because you are swinging that sword so often and so many times and in such quick succession that no, this isn't going to work. We have to do something different. And then they said, well, what if we do a really fast paced, music, which also makes sense. And one of the things I was going to say is that to me, the fast paced music is good because, you don't always recognize it, but your brain does, which is music sets the tempo, right? It sets the tempo of gameplay, right? So if the music is very quick, then it's kind of massaging your brain into the fact that like, this is not a thinker, this isn't let me take a moment and just really take in the space, and kind of explore the area a little bit. No, this is not that, man. This is heart pounding, fast music. So, again, it's all on brand. It's all on theme. It's good.
I wouldn't be surprised if the modern Ninja Gaiden games, which I haven't played any of, so I'm about to speculate. So I hope I'm not way wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if those games, which do have some Resident Evil, Legend of Zelda style puzzles, move this statue over this block and then it unlocks this door, that kind of crap. But you're not murdering during those little puzzle sequences, right? When you're trying to find the gem to put into the clock to get into the police station, you're not murdering during that section, right? You've already done the murdering and now you're scouting out the area. And I guarantee you that those games have murder music and scouting, exploring, puzzle solving music, right? When you're in the underground cavern, there's probably ambient water dripping noises and echoes far off. But then when you're being attacked by like, demon ninjas, there's probably, demon ninja battle music. So this game only has demon ninja battles. There is no puzzle solving, exploring the area. So all the music is upbeat, except the story sequences and those little cutscenes. That's when they and they do their little like, what? Yeah, they're drama music, they're soap opera BS nonsense. But like, because you're not playing there, because you're not murdering demon ninjas, you are, getting shot at by some lady. You're having a nice little coffee chat with the Demon King before he attempts to murder you, and then the music gets fast paced, right? Like,
he does such a garbage job trying to murder you, man. It's just. Yeah. It's very Bondian, and I get that, but
yeah.
It's like I'm going to open this floor panel and assume it killed you. Follow up on that. You have one thing that can derail this whole thing. Just run that through, like really run that to ground. Literally, in this case, run that to ground.
Surely you have an assistant or something who can at least like let you know and send you a memo.
Like what's Kevin up to? Make sure Kevin's on top of that.
Yeah, but I did appreciate that. The music during the cutscenes is the chill. I mean, they're not soothing songs, but that's when the dramatic conversations are happening. So you get the dramatic conversation music, right? But during the levels, they never do that. Every level has heart pumping murder music. And that's good choice because it tells my brain how I should be feeling at that moment.
Yes. Anything else for sound audio?
No, I do want to steal the first note of controls and mechanics because you will probably say something like this if I don't say it first, which is this game is fast Castlevania. It's Castlevania, but fast.
That's literally my first note.
Yes, it's mine too.
It's fast Castlevania, man. It 100% is. I mean, the color scheme, the way the game feels, it's just literally I bet if you played a video of us playing Castlevania and then just sped it up to like 1.5 times, it probably would be unrecognizable difference from playing this game. It's fast Castlevania. And to that end, you know what there's not in this? A delay on your sword, the way there's a delay on the whip, right?
There's not a delay, but it does stop you. So
yes.
you can't be running and swinging, because then you really would just be a murder robot.
Correct. You can be jumping and swinging.
Yes,
but you cannot be. Yeah, but you cannot be running and swinging. Yes. No, you still have to stop and swing your sword, which makes sense. You got to get into that good stance, into the Roni Kenshin, God swing or whatever it was. But yeah, no. So there's no delay, not like in Castlevania where you hit the button and then you wind back and hit your whip. Because again, Castlevania is paced differently intentionally. Castlevania is supposed to be, you walk in, you stop, you hesitate, you consider your surroundings, right? And then you kind of make a plan and then start to work it out. This game is not that. It is twitch reflexes. I need you to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And so if you had any delay on your sword, that would be nightmarish. Also, you can, I believe you can tweak your jump a little bit as well.
A little, but not much.
Not much.
It's, I mean, that's the fact that you can do it at all is a huge departure from Castlevania, but it's not Mario levels of, near flight.
Yeah. Where you're just, it's just enough to kind of feel like you can kind of pull it back a little bit. So very, very wildly different pacing, but again, it has that faster rhythm to it. And I say rhythm because I do feel that this game is very much so way into the practice category. There is some improvisation in the sense that if you screw up and do it wrong, you can recover, and
Ish.
Right. Sometimes it's not a great recovery. And sometimes you're like, oh my God. And definitely there are times where it just straight up knocks you into a pit, you're done, But there were other times where I was like, oh, I screwed that up. And then I just got my lunch for, 4 or 5 health bars and then pulled it out. And I was like, well, that sucked. But the upside, and I'm a little bit all over the place, but the upside is because of the way they do the cycle time, all you have to do is just kind of get to the next screen and you're like, oh, well, I'll get more health the next round anyways. But all that being said is that it very much so is it's a rhythm game, so it's like, it has, if you literally put the speed runners, play through on it, the no deaths, did it without failure kind of thing. I am pretty confident that it would very much so look exactly like Guitar Hero going through the screen.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean, the enemies are in the exact same place every time, right? So you can control how they spawn, which means you can memorize the button presses and memorize the level layout, right? Like would this count as a solved game? Like that there is one optimal path, and if you are able to execute that optimal path, that would be the fastest you could possibly do it.
I would make the argument that yes, and one of the things that it does that I think encourages that, which is that if you are acting persistently the moment that an enemy comes onto screen, generally there's a couple of exceptions to it, but generally the moment that an enemy comes onto screen, you need to be actively working towards dealing with that enemy immediately, which is to say that you either need to be running up and dispatching it or jumping over it or whatever the ideal solution is. And the reason why I say that is that's why to me it's critical that the enemies respawn, because there were a couple of times where I walked up to a bad guy. I was like, I hesitated. Hang on. And I just walk back and despawn him and then walk back in and be like, okay, no, I'm prepared this time. I know that I need to hit the ground running. So I didn't have to sit there and try to refigure out the timing. I'd just be like, no, I screwed it up. Walk back, walk in, come again. So the game is very precisely timed, So yeah, I would make the argument that, there is it is a solved game. Yes, I would think so.
And it really does have that rhythm game kind of feel, because every problem is not solved by murdering, most problems are solved by murdering, but sometimes it's solved by jumping. Sometimes it's solved by kind of like, doing the flip flop jump up a wall, and then that's how you avoid this one enemy, but you have to fight this other enemy. Or there's a pickup that you want to get, but you have to, hop up the wall. Like it's not just, hold right, press murder button. Sometimes it's, right, left, jump, 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 kill, 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 jump, kill, run, run, special weapon. And a lot of times you're actually going left and right. So it's like this whole screen is to the left, and then you go up a ladder, and then the next whole screen is to the right because you're like climbing the mountain or whatever. So it is very much like following the rhythm of a piece of music. I didn't find it super easy to recover if I lost that beat, right? Like if I got into the flow and stayed in the flow, then I could be quite successful. And over the course of my playthrough, I managed to get all the way to Act 6, Stage 2, which is this is like 85% of the way through the game, 90% of the way through the game. So like it's pretty damn far, but I was playing, like Weezer and OK Go and like feeling pretty good about myself. But then when somebody was like, "Oh, let's put on some Metallica," and I was like, which Metallica? Right. And then you get the double bass pedals and stuff. And I was just like, I can't, dude, I just can't. Right. And it's like, you can see it. You like every time you die, you can kind of track out like, oh, what I maybe should have done was like drawn this line through this area, but it's just a lot of bottomless pits. So like you take one hit and you go flying into a pit, and your ability to recover gets less and less and less the further you go into the game, because there isn't ground to land on or whatever. Or there's so many damn enemies that they just beat you to death as you're attempting to recover.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that that definitely I agree with your comment of one of the things I enjoyed about the game was trying to figure out what that optimal solution was. So there were a number of times where I would, walk into a series of bad guys, and they would kick the mess out of me. So then I would walk out, I would continue on, but, I took like a quarter to a half of my health and damage, I'd be like, man, that was suboptimal. So then when I would then later die, and try again and be like, okay, that didn't work. So that must not be the right rhythm. That must not be the right solution. So now let me try, pause, jump, duck, and I do that and be like, no, that didn't work either. That time I got knocked off a cliff and died entirely. So that was certainly not the solution, but then after 3 or 4 iterations, I'd be like, okay, that I now know the solution to this problem. The game's difficulty does scale the way that you're mentioning, because everything I just said is only acceptable with a relatively short cycle time. And the cycle time gets longer as the game goes on. So the way that it works, which I think at the beginning works very well, which is there are mid checkpoints. There are checkpoints that if you die, it kicks you back to. And then level points where if you get game over, it'll kick you back to, right? So that being said is that, initially, if there was something really, really hard, they'd put it at the beginning of, the game over checkpoint. So once you got past that, it was pretty easy. And then maybe a couple of extra hard things, but, it would just beat you up a little bit. So if you were playing decently beforehand, then you could kind of muscle through with enough health. But then towards the end, they put those bottlenecks further and further forward. So I got more and more frustrated because I was like, I just cannot figure out the rhythm for this one area. And it kept kicking me back so far that I was like, I don't really want to do this anymore, man. I'm good.
Well, and if you zoom way out and you look at how the game, like, I guess zoom way in maybe, but if you look at like the pieces that make up the game, there's acts. And if you're looking like up in the HUD, which by the way looks exactly like the HUD in Castlevania, if you're looking up in the HUD, there's, number dash another number. And that first number is the act. So there's 6 acts, but they don't all have the same number of levels. Act 1 is 1 level. So you do that 1 level, which is made up of 1 screen, and then you fight a boss. And then Act 1 is done. And then Act 2, I think, is 2 levels, but each level is still only 1 screen. And then eventually the acts are not one screen. So one or the levels are not one screen. So one level may have 2 or 3 screens, and there's only a checkpoint every level, right? And you don't really notice them. They just kind of happen. So like you climb up a ladder and it's like, oh, now I'm in, 2-2. Now, if I die, I know I'll load right here. But then in like Act 3, you climb up a ladder and you're like, what? Why didn't it switch? Why is this not a different level? Oh my God, that means if I die on this screen, I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning of that other screen, right? So like the cycle time still feels pretty good, right? Because it's so fast at first that even by the time they elongate it, you're like, okay, this is longer than when it started out in the game, but it's not hatefully punishing until the end of Act 6. And that's when it becomes hatefully punishing. But that's the end of the game. So they decided to, slap you in the face with that.
Well, and I think that, the idea being, hey man, we gave you guys a whole lot of game to play, but if you want to beat the game, you gotta get good. I will say that, so why don't you give us your feels on the infinite enemy spawns, and then I'll give you my take on it.
Dude, okay.
Because I think you've got feelings about this.
So my problem is this. They kept this in Ninja Gaiden 2 and Ninja Gaiden 3, right? So this all 3 of those games were on the Nintendo, and they introduced other mechanics and stuff in the later Ninja Gaidens, but generally speaking, they're all kind of the same game. They have a really similar feel. They probably use a lot of the same engine, a lot of the same visuals and stuff. The broken enemy spawn, what I consider broken enemy spawns, are there all the time. However, if you are playing this game, what do we say? ABF, always be moving forward. ABR, always be running, right?
Always be running. Yep.
ABN, always be a ninja.
That's just good life advice.
I think so. So if you are playing it with the understanding that that is not a way to play, it is the only way to play, right? You don't decide the pace you play the game. The game decides. It's exactly like Rock Band, right? You don't decide the pace the song happens. The song happens to you, and you either go along for the ride or you don't. This is a platformer that plays out like a rhythm game, and it kind of took me a while to come around to that viewpoint. So until you come around to that viewpoint, the enemy spawns feel not just broken, but insultingly broken. Mind-bogglingly, frustratingly, teeth-grindingly, controller-shatteringly broken. Because if I hadn't had to purge my Twitch videos from the internet, you would see that there were times when like I would die and I was frustrated, and then I would get up to a point where there was broken enemy spawn, and I would stop like an idiot. And now like this bat, just infinite bats coming out of the bottom of the screen, or infinite army assholes running from the edge of the screen or whatever. And I was just like, this is the worst, because even once you accept that this is essentially a rhythm game masquerading as a ninja platformer with like a kind of stereotypical 1980s story, you still have to stop treating it like it's a platformer. And so you have to like break that muscle memory, and you're seeing a platformer, so you have to tell your brain, no, just for the love of God, keep moving forward. ABN, always be a ninja. So like that, I'm still not totally over it. Like cognitively, I understand that's what the game wants, and I got to the point where I could execute it comfortably, but I don't think the game does an amazing job of conveying to the player that that is the only way to be successful.
Well, I would agree, and I would definitely say that's an artifact of the time of, you just make a game where you're like, this is the way to play it that way. That being said, I think that the reason why the enemy spawns are so broken is specifically to keep you from optimizing the fun out of the game, because they don't want you to sit there and like wait for the bad guy to come towards you and then hit him, which makes that jump super easy now. They want you to navigate that jump while the guy is coming at you. They want you to do that specific thing. So therefore, they got to keep throwing that bad guy at you. Otherwise, what you would do is you would just kind of wait until you get right to that spawn point, and then you'd kill the bad guy, and you'd walk, and then wait, kind of inch up on that other spawn point, kill the next bad guy. That would be the optimal way to play the game, and that's not fun. So they said, nope, but we're going to put a stop to that. Spawn them, just turn the army guy machine generator up to 10, and just all of those itchies are just coming out all the time, and Scratchy's trying to kill him. Which one's which? Anyways, but yeah, so I think that it's literally because the game weirdly, and I was hoping you would say, which is like you said, is that the enemy spawn points are broken to keep you from breaking the game.
Yes.
No,
the enemy spawn points are broken because you don't decide when the notes in the song get played. The song decides when the notes in the song get played. So if it's kind of like when you pause in like Rock Band or Guitar Hero and then you unpause, it like scrolls back a measure just to give you like, okay, those notes are still coming because that's when they happen in the song, right? And so you can, and I watched some speed runs where like the runner would screw something up and then be like, okay, and then back up so that the enemies would respawn, because you need the enemies in most cases to properly move through an area.
Yep.
To the point where another thing that this has in common with early Castlevania is some of the sub-weapon drops are very intentional. They are expecting you to use that to solve a problem that's coming up real soon. And you absolutely can solve that problem without that tool, but they really expect you to have it. So there are problems that are like, that platforming challenge isn't that hard. And it's like, oh, did you have the orange shuriken? That's why you don't think it was that hard. Or, did you have the spinny, whatever, I don't know what it's called, the spinny sword thing where you spin in the air? That's why you think that platforming challenge wasn't that hard. Because if you died or you missed it or you didn't have enough of the ninja points.
Yeah, ninja points, yeah.
Then you can't use that. And that tool was really the one they were designing this challenge around, right?
Yep.
And that gets weird because some of the levels have like an upper area and a lower area, and the thing you need is only on one of those levels, and so you can miss it. And then when you get to the platforming challenge where they kind of expect you to have it, you're like,
Yeah. No, I think that there's one area in particular that I found frustrating, but fascinating, is it's in World 5, where basically there's a platforming area where you World 5. So it's Act 5 in Ninja Gaiden, but it's World 5 in Ninja Gaiden. So so that being said, is in Scene 5, you get in Stage 2, right? You get you gain ninja points, and then you get to where the item is, and it makes everything super easy. But that item is in Stage 3. So if you die and get kicked back to the beginning of the stage, you can still get that item, but you don't have the ninja points to use it. So that I found fascinating because it was almost being punished by the spawn point. So whenever I get through that, I'm like, I got to get through this part. I have to get through Stage 4 and Stage 2 and 3 on my first pass, because otherwise I'm going to get kicked back to the beginning of Stage 3, and you can technically navigate this without the ninja shuriken. But chances are you're probably just going to die 2 more times and then get kicked back to the beginning anyways.
Did you know what that is? That's this game's version of the combo multiplier. It's like, yeah, I 99%ed the song and you 99%ed the song. Why are our scores so different? Because you made a mistake at the 50% mark, which then screwed up until you built your multiplier back up. I made a mistake on the last note. So like we both missed one note, but it has this compounding effect. Like, oh my God, this is a rhythm game. I hate this so much.
So speaking of rhythm, and this is something that the game did that I really, really loved. So I do think that the game does a great job of really trying to think of what would it be like to be a ninja. Let us deliver that experience, right? To me, it's Arkham Asylum, where Arkham Asylum really makes you feel like Batman. This really kind of makes you feel like a ninja, right? So the reason why is because always be ninja, right? Always be moving, right? Except when at the bosses you beat by standing still,
and they have less driving forward music. It's more like ominous music.
Yeah. But no, when I suddenly realized that all of the bosses that I fought were beaten not by me having super wild ninja jumping crazy all over the place skills, but you just have to find the place where you can be still and then be patient and wait for the boss to come to you, right? So there's both the adrenaline pumping, I have to have the rapid body ninja reflexes, but also the Zen meditative skill to let an enemy that is more powerful than me come to me, And I thought that was like fascinating. I mean, again, if you don't know that, if you didn't figure that out, right? If you're playing the game and you didn't figure that out, super frustrating. Controller shatteringly frustrating. But then once you figure it out, you kind of feel like you got this ninja sage knowledge, like something now that other people don't know, and it's kind of cool.
Well, and this holds up. Maybe not on the last boss. I can't say for sure because the last boss is like flying around and you gotta like jump up to hit him, jump off platforms and stuff. So like maybe that one's a little more technically complicated, like mechanically complicated. But the second boss that has like the
whip chain,
it's like a scythe like on the end of a chain.
Yeah, which is weird, but it's like a 9-section steel whip, but with a scythe at the end.
Yeah, super, crazy Hong Kong Fooey kind of weapon. But when I first got to that boss, I was like, oh, you have to do the god awful, because we didn't mention this, but Ryu can't climb walls. He can stick to walls, but he cannot climb walls.
And he can get knocked into sticking to walls, which sucks.
Which I think so side story to my side story. I think I came up with a pretty funny way to describe that. It's like you're Spider-Man in every Spider-Man movie where he first gets his spider powers and he's sticking to stuff, but he doesn't want to and he can't make it stop. And it's like hilarious. But you're like, normally when that's happening to Spider-Man, thugs aren't trying to cave his skull in with baseball bats. So
True.
There were a couple times where like I got knocked into a wall and I was like, my ninja skills are now actively working against me here. Like this is not what I want. So anyway, if you really get the controls, and I'll be honest, I observed people doing this. I cannot execute this. You can climb a wall by doing like stick jump, and you just like pop, 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 pop. And it's like, you got to really tap those controls in a super precise way. And so when I got to the second boss,
real fast for the record, I almost was able to do that. Like I felt like I was Goku versus Lord Slug in turning Super Saiyan, where like I couldn't do it, like if somebody said, oh, can you do the wall climb with Ryu? I would not say yes, but it's like, I could feel the Super Saiyan energy. I was so close, but then, I got beaten up by a giant slug. So anyway, sorry.
But that means it is within you. But when I got to that second boss, I was like, oh, he's gonna walk over here and I'll be up on the wall. And when he gets all the way to the edge of the screen, I will jump over him because I'm a ninja, right? And you can do that if you can do the wall climb, but the wall climb is a gigantic pain in the ass unless you have two walls to jump between, right? What you're actually supposed to do is duck under the scythe and just stab him to death with your sword, right? He's actually not that different from the first boss. The only difference is you can duck under the scythe, whereas with the first boss, you can just stand out of his range and just poke at him. But the scythe thing has a longer horizontal range, so you can't really just back up, hit. Like that's not a particularly safe way to do it. The thing that they do that I think is really legit, no matter how much health you have, when you get to the boss, you got full health. And the place that ended up being like the godsend for me is the boss of Act 5. He's fast and he is hard. But did you know that if you press...
beat him to death?
Yeah, if you press the murder button fast enough, he will die before he can kill you?
Yep.
Because that's not the way you're supposed to beat him. But it works.
Oh yeah, no, it totally works. And actually, I think for the boss of Act 2, I did something similar, which is, and this is one of the things that that I do semi-regularly, which is that kind of this isn't what's meant to happen, but it works. Which is like let's just both keep pouring bullets into each other. You'll drop before I will, kind of a thing. One of my favorite things to do in Borderlands was they had Vladoff grenades, which are basically just giant flamethrowers. And so I just walk up to a bad guy and drop a giant flamethrower in between the two of us, and then just smile because they would die before I would, and it's like, yeah, no, this hurts me too, but you can't take it for as long. So yeah, literally fighting that guy, I ran up to him and just started murdering as fast as I can, because normally that was my knee jerk, the first pass on any boss, just because until I understood the pattern, I'm like, let's just try this, right? And then literally I just was like, murder, 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 murder. And I looked up at the screen because he had hit me a couple of times. So he'd knock me back. I just like a child run up to him again as fast as I could, murder, murder, murder. And then after doing that for what felt like forever, but was probably 10 seconds, I just did a quick glance up at the bars. And I saw that, his bar was like 3 bars lower than my bar. And I was like, oh, he'll die first. I'm good. Just keep I'll be this horrible shattered meat husk after I'm done that now has to go through the rest of the game, but I won no matter.
But I think that again is an intentional design decision that differentiates this from a Castlevania or a Mega Man, which is the level is one challenge, right? The act is one challenge, and you have checkpoints at the beginning of each level, and then the boss is thematically the challenge that caps off that act, but it is distinct in that no matter how bloodied you were when you get to the boss, you fight the boss with full health, which means you don't have to master the level to have a chance at the boss. You have to master the level to beat the level, and then you have to beat the boss to beat the boss, but you start the level and you start the boss with full health. And I was like, this is nice. Like, there's a lot of times I have exploded in Mega Man or dropped dead in Castlevania because I'm like, well, yeah, I guess I finished the level, but I'm not going to defeat this boss without taking a single hit, and I only have one hit left.
Quick aside to that is were definitely times when I did that thing where I died, 10 seconds into the continue location, like from the continued location on, I went, nope, and then just died immediately 2 more times. Be like, no, let's reset the counter on that bad boy, which is I always just get a kick out of because it's so Machiavellian.
Now, dude, this game, because of the way the cycle time is, and you have infinity, you don't technically have continues. You just press start on the game over screen, and if you didn't know that and you turn the console off, you would be sad.
Sad.
But it's this game absolutely incentivizes that playstyle, and I don't mean like, oh, they did this shitty thing that they should have fixed and done differently. I mean, like, that playstyle is built into the cycle time of the game because I also did that, because why wouldn't you? Like, it doesn't even feel like, oh, I'm being lazy or, oh, I'm cheating or whatever. It's just like, it's just how the game works.
Yeah. The one last thing that I really want to make sure that I touch on is I wrote the phrase murder where you must, Yeah.
I mean, Ninja.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Is that there is no incentive for killing mobs, And
do you get points when you kill an enemy, and do enough points give you an extra life?
I don't know if enough points give you an extra life. I did not experience that. I think I think it was like Castlevania where it was points for points' sake.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I think enough points give you an extra life, but it's 1, a huge amount, and 2, you're never gonna just stand there, and it's not Mario where you could pin a turtle shell in between 2 blocks and grind 1-ups.
But that being said, is that at least on the first pass, there is nothing inherent to killing mobs. You don't gain experience points, you don't gain gold, you don't gain any type of resource. So literally the only time when you should be killing a bad guy is when that is the optimal solution to that problem, which again, it's a ninja, is that it's not a brawler where, it's not like Final Bout or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles where literally you cannot progress before you kill everyone on the screen. This is not that. Your job is to get from point A to point B as quickly as humanly possible. If that means jumping over the bad guy, then that's the right call. If that means killing the bad guy, then that's fine. It's not that you're disincentivized from murder. It's just you only are supposed to be murdering where you must. So, and that's why I think they make you stand still when you pull your sword out, right? It's because otherwise it would be so much easier and it would be advantageous to basically kind of kill everything, because then it can't double back on you. But killing a thing is actually just slightly more difficult than not. So you really only should be doing it, again, when it's the optimal solution to the problem. There's a guy standing on the platform that you need to get to. There's a bad guy who is going to fire 15 bullets at you and you can't jump over all of them. You know, there is a reason for you to end that person's life. You're not doing it out of just wild bloodlust or revenge. You're doing it because they are an obstacle between you and your goal. And that's how a ninja do.
Yeah. Yeah, no notes. I'm with you 100% on that. Like the enemy placement and the fact that it halts your forward momentum most of the time, right? You can do the little jump and murder, but generally speaking, it alters your flow through the space. Means, you know, every death is a choice, right? Every life you take, they all matter, right? So most of the time, I feel like you can choose to evade an enemy or kill an enemy without it having disastrous repercussions, but it often has measurable repercussions. And the further you go in the game, they do become disastrous.
Yep, absolutely. Do you have anything else?
I do have one thing I wanted to mention, because I almost brought this up earlier because we kind of got close talking about it with the flow of the game. The kind of, you know, one hit kill, fast and fluid, like that's super important part of the rhythm, right? It can't be some notes you have to press 5 or 6 times. The best example, if anybody's listening to this and they're like, no, you guys are morons, this isn't a stupid rhythm game, there's no chill flow to this game. I will link in the show notes a speedrunner, I think his handle is Argus, but he has the current world record for Ninja Gaiden 1, and he plays it in the most chill, relaxed, super high level of execution. And I think this is a great visual to go with the, like, oh, this is kind of a rhythm game, because if you've ever seen a really high tier guitar player, they don't look like a cartoon character. It's not big movements. It's not crazy hard strumming. It's a lot of small, fast, intricate movements, right? Lots of tiny little finger movements that produces these blazing guitar solos. And it sounds like when you air guitar, you're like, "Brew," and the big arm motions. Real guitar playing is not like that. Like the faster and more insane the you know, eye melting solo you're playing is, the more like gentle it actually looks to see the person play it. That is watching this guy world record this game. He is so chill and relaxed, and he's like narrating really calm the whole time, the way like really successful speedrunners do. And like every time he does the wall jump, he says the same thing every time, because I think this is the song he's singing in his head that like helps him memorize the game, is flipping and a flopping, dripping and a dropping, just every time. And like he when he intentionally takes damage to, like, you know, push himself up onto a ledge or something because it's slightly faster, it'd just be like, and bonk, just every time. Like, and I realized, like, that's how he memorizes this game, because this game is a rhythm game. So he memorized the song of the game. Like it's just absolutely incredible to watch. The whole thing, I think, is like 14 minutes or something. There will be a link to my much shorter, much sadder clip in the show notes, and I will link his speedrun in the show notes, because it is the proof that everything we have said about this being a rhythm game is true.
The one thing I kind of want to do now, and I don't think that the internet may have just generated this on its own, but is kind of like the whole, you know, if you watch Star Wars, it totally syncs up the dark side of the moon, right? It's like if you took the controller inputs and then mapped them to Guitar Hero, you know, what song, it's like, oh no, it's totally, you know, this Metallica song or whatever, you know.
That'd be amazing.
I'm kind of curious though, like if you literally mapped all of the controls and just map them to notes, what song it would play, you know, what is the song of Ninja Gaiden?
Well, how positive would you be that the universe is a simulation if it turned out that the song is the song in that level?
that would be a Ready Player One level Easter egg, right? You know, where it's like whatever the creator of the universe. But I mean, literally, then I would probably go and try to find all of the developers of Ninja Gaiden and like reach out to them and understand who they are in this universe, that they knew when they created this game in like 1989 that it was such a rhythm game that they went ahead and just basically, because what they would have had to have done was played a song, then translated that into controls, then created a game around it. Oh man, I want this to happen so bad now.
Never has there been a better time for our no research creed, because we can just decide that this is true.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We just need to figure out what song it is in our mind, like in our head canon.
It's the greatest song in the world.
Ooh, yes. That's the song that they actually played on that fateful night. Yes. No, that head canon accepted, man. I'm in.
So does it hold up?
Yes. But what I mean, but you know, I'll take my secondary approach. You did it hold up?
I give this a nostalgia monocle, and I'll tell you why.
What?
No, I will tell you why. For all of the glowing praise we gave it that it absolutely deserves, for all of the mind-blowing revelations I had over the course of playing this game, that this game was not the game I thought it was this totally different game. The reason I mark it down is because there are modern games that are like this. Like Celeste is a great example, right? I would say like Celeste has a much chiller song, but there's a song to Celeste, right? You can get into a rhythm that it's very like jump, dash, 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 jump, 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 right? Like, and you could do the same kind of thing. The difference is that this game is just punishing enough. It's just inaccessible enough that I would have a really hard time telling someone like, well, I mean, yes, it is as hard as you remember, but if you pretend you're playing Guitar Hero, it's doable, right? Like it's just inaccessible is the best word I've been able to come up with for it. It's just inaccessible enough that it was just like, it would really help if you remember this game fondly. So like this is I feel almost bad giving this a nostalgia monocle because they do so much right, and so many future games exist because this game exists and because it was executed so well. The music, the visuals, the gameplay, but it's the tiny little bit of inaccessibility that to me nudged it down to a nostalgia monocle. And I'll say, when I first started playing, I was like, hard nostalgia goggles. Okay, firm nostalgia monocle. Oh crap! I kind of want to give this no nostalgia goggles required, but it's so hard. It's unwelcoming, right? And so I do feel a little guilty about this one, which is an awkward feeling to have as a critic, but like. I give it a begrudging nostalgia monocle. You deserve no nostalgia goggles required, but I'm sorry.
So for me, I would say no nostalgia goggles required. Again, it is very much so a rhythm game. It is and not a platformer. If you go into it expecting like, it's like Ninja Mario, it is not that. As far as who I would recommend this game to, I wouldn't recommend it to anybody who is like a has a low games literacy, because this is definitely the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, in the sense of, you don't hand that off to somebody who just got done reading Hop on Pop and expect for them to really get it. But I think that the number one thing to me, though, that made it, I think that maybe the difference is that I'm good at video games. Like I'm good at,
you're good at games.
No, but not just like this game. I mean, I was clearly better than you at this game by a extraordinary margin, but I mean, like, I'm just better at video games in general. Like, I'm good at video games,
No, you're good.
Like, yeah, like a player.
Can you like sum it up though? Because I mean, I'm just going to cut all this out.
You're going to cut all of this out, or what?
Yeah.
What? Like a huge piece of shit.
Curtain falls. The music plays. The credits roll. Then it all fades to black. And you're left by yourself The fanfare is gone. There's no player 2 there by your side to share victories won. But as you slowly progress down the hall to your bed, a few great events leak back into your head from the time that you spent traversing the land, battling evil, fighting the darkness, just sword in hand. Your memories creeping with the edge of a smile. You realize again what you lost for a while. You're gonna think back much less on how you saved the day